What is up guys, Bryce Peelstick here again with another tutorial, and today we're talking about how to frame your photos for Instagram in Photoshop. So let's get into it. So we're here in Photoshop and we already have all of our edits done and we have them applied to the full image that we took. I highly recommend doing all of your edits at the full span of the image and then cropping down as you need afterwards using this tool that I'm about to show you guys. That way, if you're using this image for anything else, say you're gonna do a print or something that's gonna go up on the wall and you want a landscape aspect ratio instead of an Instagram aspect ratio, then all of your edits aren't locked into that. So say you have an adjustment layer where the whites are blown up a little bit, that's applied just to that 4:5 aspect ratio if you've already cropped in. But if you haven't and you've edited large, you can just crop in and crop to whatever aspect ratio you want, and you don't have to go back and redo any edits that you have already done, and just a time saver. And honestly, a pro tip, like just edit large, scale down, then you can use this photo for whatever you want. So here we got a photo of me standing on a little rock ledge looking up at Orion's belt. So we've edited large, all of our edits are applied to the full image. So the first thing that we're gonna wanna do is click the half circle down here in the bottom right, and we're gonna apply a solid color fill. So white is typically the color that you'll want to go with. Sometimes you'll use black, but for 95% of the time, you'll probably want to use white. Select OK. After we have that, we'll select U on our keyboard, or you can select the shape icon down here, and we'll just draw out a little rectangle. And from here, the properties panel will open up, and you can see the width and the height. So we're going to want to change this to a 4:5 aspect ratio, 4:5 being that is the maximum real estate that you can take up on the Instagram feed. So I'm gonna go ahead and do 800 here, and you'll want to uncheck this little link box, and we'll do 1,000 for the second number. Hit enter, and now we will want to reactivate or click the link again, or just click the link if it wasn't already selected. And this will make sure that the aspect ratio of that square rectangle that we just created stays the same no matter how we move our mouse around to manipulate or transform that shape. So we'll go ahead and click Command or Control T on your keyboard, and this will open up the transformation tool. We'll drag this out to either side of our canvas here. I'm gonna zoom in just to make sure we are not mixing a pixel or two. Looks good. Hit enter to place that shape, and then shortcut, if you guys don't know it, Command Control 0, and that will resize your canvas to the frame. So now we'll go ahead and center up the shape that we just created. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this gray for you guys to see it a little bit better. So if you hit Command or Control A and select V or use the move tool over here, we'll go ahead and center our rectangle layer that we just created by clicking this center vertically button. Now you can see that that has happened. We'll go ahead and click Control or Command and select the rectangle layer that we just created, and then we'll select the mask of the color mat we created earlier, and with our foreground color set to white, select Delete or Backspace on your keyboard, and that will remove that section of the color layer, making it transparent so we'll be able to see what's behind it. So if you select Command or Control D, you can remove the marching ants. And we can go ahead and delete this layer because we do not need it anymore. And here you can see that we have our image framed in a 4:5 aspect ratio. So the next really important step here is to go ahead and do the same thing, but we're gonna do it for the square 1:1 aspect ratio, because that is what ultimately people see on your Instagram. When they go to your profile and they're scrolling through, they see that 1:1 aspect ratio, make a split decision of whether or not they want to follow you or not. So that might be honestly the biggest step here, the most important step here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and create a solid color and leave it as white. That is totally fine. Hit U on your keyboard, or you can select the square tool, rectangle tool, drag out a shape. This time we're gonna hold Shift, and it'll keep a symmetrical aspect ratio of a 1:1. So now we can click Control or Command T to transform this guy. Again, dragging it out to the sides of the canvas. Hit enter to place that, and Command or Control A to select all. Use V or the move tool, and we're gonna center this guy. I'm gonna change the color of this so you guys can see what is happening. So with V selected, we'll go ahead and select the align vertically button, and you can see that centers it on the canvas. Again, move over to the mask of the color mat with your foreground selected to white. Hit Delete or Backspace on your keyboard, and that will remove that area from the mask. Now we can select Command or Control D to deselect our marching ants there. delete the shape layer because we don't need that anymore. And now we have our 1x1 grid. So from here, since both of these are aligned, once we turn off the 1x1, it'll show us exactly what the viewer, the scroller, your follower is gonna see on the actual feed here on the 4x5 aspect ratio. Now I'm gonna stop right here because a major benefit to using this method, instead of scaling your image to match a certain pixel size, so say you're doing 1080 by 1080 and scaling that down and keep moving it, transforming it where you're continuously moving those pixels around and really adjusting the image quality. This, you leave the image exactly how it is and you just transform the color mats that we created to get the exact composition that you're wanting. And then from there you can crop, resize, which we'll go over, and export from there. So it saves the quality of your image by using this method as well. Okay, so I like how this is looking. We can go ahead and transform this a little bit to get the exact composition that we're looking for. So I'm going to select both layers by holding Shift and clicking both the layers. Command T to transform. Here's a quick little pro tip if you guys don't know this, is if you click Command or Control H, it will hide the transformation box. It does the same thing if you have a selection. So if you have the marching ants going wherever, you can hit Command H and it will hide that. So now that we have our transformation tool, we can kind of select and move this around exactly with the 1x1 showing so that we're seeing what is gonna end up on our feed, and then from there we can place it and unhighlight the layer for the 1x1, and then we can check out how it's actually gonna display on the feed. Go ahead and push Enter to place the layers. And we can turn off the 1x1 aspect ratio to see what is gonna display on the actual feed. You can mess around with this as you want. You know, it's art. It's, what's the word? Subjective. So do with it what you want. But this is just a powerful way to get the exact framing that you want for your photo without distorting your pixels by scaling and resizing your image. You're just using these other layers to do the same thing and you get a really good view of the final product. If the white is a little distracting, this big old border here, we can quickly change that just by selecting the color here, and then we can select this frame out here and you can darken it down a bit, and then that hides it. Another way to do the same thing, similar thing, is to right click on your outside artwork border, whatever it's called, and you're gonna select custom. I already have it set to white. If you don't have it set to white, you can come down here, select custom color, and turn it to white, and that way you will be able to see just what the image is gonna look like on a white background. And again, you can do this with black if black suits better for that image. And we can turn on and off that layer, both the layers. This is the original. We have our 4x5 framed how we want it, and the 1x1 that is gonna show up on our Instagrid. I'm gonna turn this back to dark gray, and we can go ahead and crop in to the 4x5 aspect ratio. Make sure that the 1x1 is unchecked. Hit C on your keyboard, then bring up the crop tool. Up here in the top right where it says ratio, we're gonna type in 4 for the first box and 5 for the second box. Select Enter, and then we can frame this up. Cool, so now that we have our image cropped and framed up, we can go ahead and export this. I don't like to resize my image here in the artwork, because if you accidentally save it, it's saved at a 1080 and then you don't Control Z to undo it and resave it again. You're locked in at a lower res image, and after all that work, it'd be really tedious and annoying and cumbersome to go back and redo all that work. So I'm gonna leave the image here as is, and we'll go ahead and export this. I'm all about shortcuts. Here's another one, Control-Alt-Shift-W. That'll bring up the export dialog box. If you don't wanna do that, come over here, File, Export, Export As. It's a long time. It's a lot of wasted seconds there. All right, so now we have our dialog box pulled up here. We'll go ahead and adjust this width to 1080, and that will automatically adjust the height right below that to our 4x5 aspect ratio, which makes 1350 pixels. You definitely want to have, for Instagram, your format set to JPEG. That's what they recommend on their website. Quality, 100%. I've heard a few other people mention having it lower at a 73% because of the Instagram compression. I don't know how that makes sense. I haven't tested it out. I just leave them at 100 and things look good. So I'll just leave it at 100. So going down, For the resample, you can leave this at bicubic automatic if you want, or you can choose bicubic sharpener. So anytime that you're going from a larger image and scaling down, you always want to use bicubic sharpener. And if you select bicubic automatic, it will honestly do the same thing. It'll just automatically select bicubic sharpener. So if you want to be tech savvy with Photoshop, go ahead and do this yourself. If not, leave it as is. And in the instance that you're scaling down from a really large image to a small image, sometimes there will be an extra number down here just because the scaling, it does its thing and there's an extra pixel in here. You can just update that in the canvas size box, so this one down here, and just change that to the exact ratio that you want. If you do that up at the top box, the image size box, it will affect both boxes. So if we kind of look at this here, it will adjust the height. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you do that in the canvas size, just so that you get the exact dims that you want, and then we can go ahead and continue with exporting. So moving down, make sure that the convert to sRGB box is selected. Your photo may already be in sRGB, but in the instance that it was shot in ProPhoto and you forgot to change the image to sRGB in Photoshop, just make sure this is selected if you're ever using for web. Some print companies, they use RGB, which is great because my photos come from Lightroom into Photoshop in RGB, and converting to CMYK, no. So if you're printing, use a company that prints sRGB, not CMYK. Just a little tip there. All right, so now that we're done here, let's go ahead and click export, and you'll go ahead and export this to wherever you want. And that's it. We framed up our image for Instagram in Photoshop using the color mats in Photoshop, and now we're ready to post to Instagram and share our art with the world. So this is literally the method I use every single time that I upload to Instagram. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know what you think about this method in the comments below. And if you like this video, of course, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.